Good morning and welcome to an all-new episode of Hatching for Health. Today we have a special guest. He's actually a national attorney, but based right here out of the Galleria area with WestLoopLaw. And he additionally not only is an attorney, but he's a trained physician. So let's welcome Dr. Nguyen.
Hi,
Hello.
Jessica. Good to see you. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, good to see you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here.
Appreciate it very much.
Like your style.
I appreciate it. It's a little.
It's like even, then you're also a stylist, no?
I got the matching black memo today.
Yeah,
and it's a little cool in Houston this morning, so it works out nicely.
There you go.
Thank you for having me.
You're really close by. So you're right here, Galleria area.
Literally across the street from the Galleria at Westheimer and 610. So off the West Loop, that's 20 years ago, we're celebrating our 20-year anniversary of the law firm being open this year.
Oh,
and
man.
20 years ago, we were like, what would be a good name for the law firm?
Yeah.
Because every time we would answer the phone, it's the law office of Nhan Nguyen. And people are like, who? What? How do you spell that? So we're like, we got to get a better name. And we happen to be on the West Loop, so it's just, why not WestLoopLaw?
There you go.
Yes, there we go.
I know, and it's such a central location too, so everyone knows where that's at.
Yeah, ultra convenient for our clients, easy access on and off the loop, and then for us as litigators, easy to get to the courthouse downtown.
Definitely.
Yes.
I know, so you guys actually are big time in litigation. I know a lot of, there's a lot of personal injury firms in Houston, but not as many do the litigating side, and then even the caseload that you guys have is quite great. So you're the one that does the litigating.
Yes, that's correct. So, so for those of you unfamiliar with personal injury, after a collision, their claims are being filed against the responsible party insurance company. And oftentimes, more often than not, those cases can get resolved before litigation. So there's a settlement negotiation or some type of resolution to the case. For those cases where there is no resolution, those would go into what would be called litigation, where we actually have to file a lawsuit on behalf of our clients to help resolve the case. So we're pretty active in the litigation side of things. We like to advocate as hard as we can for our clients and get them the most recovery as possible.
Of course.
Yeah.
What is usually that timeline whenever it's determined that it's going to have to go to litigation? Is that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And so it varies on the type of case. And also on the injuries that our clients have gotten. But on average, depending after the medical treatment for the client and them getting as back to health as possible, it could be a 6-month process until we get a resolution on the case and before we make a decision to litigate or file a lawsuit on their behalf or not.
To actually go that far.
Yes. Now, I will say that once it's in litigation, the timing can vary on when a case would resolve. Sometimes it's taking nowadays, especially after COVID and when the courthouses were closed, it's taking 1.5 to 2 years before you can actually get to a trial setting.
Yeah, that's got to be so difficult. It seemed like during COVID, everything kind of slowed down in a way, but it also seemed like a lot of things were like being pushed to settle quicker for a minute, and then it just got really backed up, like after it was all said and done, right?
Yeah, absolutely accurate statement. Yeah, obviously COVID affected all of us in different ways. As it relates to my practice, for some reason, attorneys were deemed essential. So we were able to continue our work. Our caseload actually went up during that period because what happened was the freeways were more empty. And it allowed people to drive, I guess, a little more recklessly.
Oh, God.
And also the big box stores, Amazons and the Walmarts, their trucks were still rolling.
Yeah.
So anyway, our caseload went up over the lockdown. But as far as the trials and the court system, the courts were closed.
Yeah, so
right.
a lot got backed up.
A lot of that got backed up, and now that they're reopening, you feel a sense of a hurry to catch up because there's such a backlog of cases. I mean, last year we had a trial from a case 2016. So you can imagine, how backlogged the courthouses are.
Of course, the timeline. So tell me, being a trained physician and then, now practicing law, and that's basically the career you've chosen. Take me back to when that was and the decisions and what made you go.
Yeah, very good question. As I mentioned earlier, it's our 20-year anniversary. So since the law practice is open, but before law, I studied medicine at the University of Texas Southwestern in Dallas.
Okay.
I got my medical doctorate in 1999. And for those of you old enough to remember, that was a time managed care was really turning into the force that it's become now. So the idea for me at that time was hey, I needed to boost my legal knowledge in order to acclimate myself in a career in medicine.
Yeah.
So went to the University of Houston Law Center here locally. As a side note, concurrently picked up a master's in finance.
Oh, just a side note.
Just as a side note, for some reason, I just like, hey, I'm here.
It's always good to be good with numbers.
Yeah, right. So with the idea of returning back into medicine and completing a residency, that was not the case. Okay. Finished the law degree, got the master's in finance, and just found that through my more entrepreneurial proclivities, that the legal route would be better for me. So I never went back into clinical medicine, but having the medical doctorate and the experience and the knowledge and the learning the jargon and the lingo and how to read
it's been so impactful.
It's
for
very much
choice.
so, especially when we're taking the deposition of the defendant's expert witnesses, their doctors. So understanding that, having a perspective, knowing what the treatment should look like, and the clinical guidelines as in your work has been very helpful for our clients.
I can imagine. And are you from Houston?
Originally from Vietnam. So we immigrated after the Vietnam War in the mid-'70s. My parents arrived, my immediate family with my parents arrived to Houston in the late 70s. I'm the youngest of 4 brothers, but they were very entrepreneurial, the American dream. So they initially worked several jobs each, and then opened their own printing business.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in the early 80s. And instantly that took off. With the oil and gas industry taking off, their business took off. So I grew up in a very entrepreneurial environment.
It sounds like it.
Yeah. So.
And mom and dad were either them in medicine or law?
Not at all. They were just salt of the earth, blue collar type workers. I mean, they were both in their 40s. So the equivalent would be, I'm in my 40s. The equivalent would be if I were to just pick up my family and go to some foreign land where I didn't speak the language and had no money. Yeah. Which I can't even fathom.
At that age, it's
but I would consider myself a native Houstonian because I was so young, native Texan almost. So, but Houston's been very, very good city for my family and me.
Yeah, I bet it's definitely for the personal injury world. I know
it helps being the 3rd or 4th largest city. Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, it really is.
Yes.
And there's a lot of attorneys and some that stand out more than others, like yourself, that have just built a really solid practice. I mean, 20 years is very impressive. You see a lot of groups that start and then they part ways. They come out of law school thinking we'll be great partners, or they'll join large groups and then they try to go out on their own and they end up back with another group. So
yes, well, it wasn't easy. I originally came out of law school doing a healthcare practice.
Okay.
And just on a lark, talking to a partner of mine, said, why don't we get into PI, which neither of us had any experience in PI early on. Yeah. Typically, it's you work for another lawyer in PI for 3 or 4 or 5 years and you break off on your own. This was just, hey, let's just do PI. So we learned the hard way. So our first year we were doing parking lot cases, small cases, So
anything you can get your hands on.
Something we can just get some experience in and just built it over time. And so we are very blessed. And so it's been a good time for us in Houston. Yeah.
And is this the same partner that?
Yes.
You guys have we've been held out the whole time.
The whole time together. Yeah. So that's not to say we haven't had arguments and explosions, and growth is painful. Yeah. And so learning and living through those moments actually makes it even more valuable, right?
And he does more of the pre-lit side of y'all's firm.
Right, exactly. So as I mentioned before, there's that whole time of a case that is before litigation, which we call pre-lit, and that's just helping our clients trying to get back to a normal life with their health and economically, because a lot of these people, they don't have cars, they don't have transportation. On top of their health, they're often regular 9-to-5 workers, so their whole life has been essentially flipped upside down.
Of course.
And so we have 4 case managers that help them through that process, along with working with their medical providers in trying to get them back to at least stable health.
Yeah.
And so my partner manages that side of it with my oversight.
Yeah.
And
okay.
then if we have to file lawsuits and such, then I get my hands onto those cases.
Okay. And so with all of your litigation cases, those have all started with you and then I guess gone to litigation, but then you sometimes get some that have gone, through, I guess, kind of the pre-medicals and then come to you for litigation?
Yes, so we get other firms referring to us in various cases. Not every firm is built or set up or has the experience in litigation that you get over time. You just have to trial by fire. You got to literally go through the process to really learn it. So because you're taking depositions, you're getting discovery where you're exchanging information and going through medical records and negotiating. And most often these cases go to mediation where you're trying to find a compromised settlement facilitated by either a former judge or another attorney. So all that is a process, and as with anything, there's an art and a nuance to the technical parts of it. And so, that you have to actually go through and get the experience to know how to do that.
Yeah.
And I would say I'm still learning. I'm still learning these days, 20 years into the business. It's constant.
Yeah, constantly learning from different experiences.
Yes.
We do have to take a commercial break, but we'll come back and get into more of the national experience that you have as an attorney as well. So
Absolutely.
We will take a quick break and we'll be right back with you. Infinity Skincare is dedicated to making you look and feel your best. If you look good on the outside, you're going to feel good on the inside. Located in the River Oaks and Woodlands area, Infinity Med Spa is devoted to skincare, anti-aging, and rejuvenation. Our treatment options will help you look and feel your absolute best. The primary difference between a med spa and a day spa is that the estheticians at a med spa work under the directives of physicians and are able to offer a much more extensive list of services than they would be able to offer at a day spa. Your day at Infinity Med Spa can vary, depending on whether your focus is more directed towards treatments focused on relaxation, or whether your focus is more directed towards an outer rejuvenation. Here at Infinity Med Spa, we believe good health is a combination of inner health and outer beauty. When you look good on the outside, you feel good on the inside. If you're interested in learning more about the med spa services offered here at Infinity Med Spa, you can visit our website at medspainfinity.com. Welcome back from the break. If you have just joined us, we have Dr. Nguyen here, who is a trained physician but now practices law for 20 years with WestLoopLaw. So just quite an exciting journey you have here in Houston. But now we were talking a little bit about even a healthcare app that you've launched. So you got to give us a little story about this.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I would say my journey's is atypical. So it's kind of weird. But yeah, so as mentioned in the first segment, I went to medical school first and then law school, and then my vocation is actually as an attorney. But putting on that doctor's hat, I felt that as the aging population gets bigger and bigger, the greatest, wealthiest baby boomers are getting older, there's a bigger need to establish care for them outside of the hospital setting. And so, and so the scenario that goes in my mind was, for example, my mom, who's in her 80s, she has multiple health conditions. She speaks Vietnamese only, sensitive to certain things. And if she ever needed care in the home, it would take me a long time to try to find the right one for her.
Yeah.
But we live in this digital age such that why can't we use technology to facilitate a faster connection for the care provider for her?
Yeah.
And so that spawned the idea for Cura Connector, CuraConnector.com. And that is a web application that allows patients and families to match to the exact provider they're looking for on over 50 different quantitative and qualitative variables, including personality.
That is great.
Yeah, so...
and is this tied to, the insurance even being, applicable, or is this, a cash situation where you're, paying for this home health type scenario to come into the home?
Right, so it's a platform that allows you to match on variables. Right,
okay.
so you can match on schedule, location, language, faith preferences, and then to your question, even what what type of insurance carrier you have or how the
Okay.
care is going to be paid for. So if you wanted to make a combination of, for example, private pay with your primary insurance and then long-term care insurance and then an element of Medicare,
That is great.
you can match
This is
on all those things.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to do like a commercial for it, you know? 'Cause
Definitely,
it's-
definitely.
Because that's how, because, you know, I immediately think about, okay, home healthcare companies, hospice companies, like the ones that like, you know, when you get into like a certain age, but like those are actually your competitor. You know, like those aren't the ones that you're going to be like, hey, you should tell patients about our app, you know?
Right.
But those are, you're recruiting, I should say, the people that work for those companies to
Exactly.
to be signed up as a provider.
There
right?
you got it.
Yeah.
So if I were a home health agency and I had 50 nurses or physical therapists or whatever on my roster, they could be uploaded into our app to allow them to match with patients that would need that provider. And if there was a match, then the home health agency would get that case.
Yeah.
Right? So it facilitates kind of a marketing for these entities.
It does. I guess you're right. It's
Yeah.
not necessarily a competitor because it gives them that business. And
Yeah.
I guess it's all about how they're signed up. Because if I'm an individual, like, and I want to, you know, be a provider on your app, and I, you know, if I don't work through that company, then I'm going to keep all of that revenue as you're treating, you know, your mother. But if I
Yes.
go, if my company signs up, then they're taking a piece, you know.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's
absolutely.
but you've set it up in a way where it sounds like, you know, you'll have both options there, you know.
Right, exactly. So our platform is completely neutral. We don't employ any of these providers. We just facilitate the match.
Oh, that's great. So
Yeah.
it'll be something that maybe the app doesn't cost anything now, but later it'll be
Correct,
an
correct.
app charge, but really you're just connecting.
Right. So for patients and families, they get 90 days free on the app. So you can sign up now. We're testing the site now. It's live, so you can go on and test it. But and we're still working out some kinks in the back end, but it's live to be used. We just filed for a patent on it, which was accepted by the patent office.
That's great.
So it's a patent pending technology. But yeah, so for patients and families, it's free for 90 days. And, you know, and it just allows them to use the system and find matches. Because right now, I go back to my mom's example. If she needed care, I would have to just sit around and call companies and say, do you have anybody available? Do you have anybody available? And I wouldn't even know who they would send out.
Do they speak Vietnamese?
Do they speak Vietnamese?
you
Are they
know,
sensitive to certain things?
Of
And
course.
so, and on top of that, I wouldn't know who they were going to send out to see mom.
Yeah.
So in our situation, you're matching to the exact person that will be coming out. So it's a sense of security too, but also efficiency for what I call the sandwich generation for us.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have kids or not, but I have kids, and then I'm
Yeah.
taking care of my parents, law firm, all these other things. I mean, all the clients, which I consider family because, you know, how we perform is how they do, but
Yeah.
just don't
These
have
things
time
are-
for all that. So I'm trying to
Of
facilitate a
course.
more efficient healthcare marketplace. And it does apply to pediatrics as well.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
That's great. So it even gives, I mean, not that, well, obviously our parents are just as important, but with your children, there's, you know, it's so scary sometimes, like who's coming in and out of your home for different things.
Exactly.
And to just kind of, and all these people I'm assuming have like the background check and all the things that, you know, includes like them being a medical professional.
Right. So the platform allows them, it does ask them if they have a background check or not. If they do have one, it allows them to upload the report.
Okay. So then
yeah.
it's like, as the customer, it's like, I want someone that has one on file, you know?
Yes, exactly.
So you can find just that.
Exactly right.
So,
Now you're on it.
Yeah, that's great. And just like, I mean, with Hatching for Health, like a lot of what we do is obviously to create awareness in the community for people that are doing, you know, good. And this is honestly just like a great thing that you've done. I know right now it might not, you know, make you money, but it's helping so many people, or
Yes,
it will.
It will.
And even tapping into the pediatric population, like a lot of the term Hatching for Health is like for children and you know, what we can do for them in the community in different ways. So, you know, speaking on that, you know, I guess as obviously like a successful attorney, you know, is there anything that you guys do in the community outside of, you know, building this app all the time?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, to give back, and I know you mentioned some things.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm one of those where giving back to the community has given me so much. You know, if I really think about it, the alternative life, if we had stayed in Vietnam, would have been just black and white.
Yeah.
So the community has given my family so much, my parents and so forth, that it's an obligation to give back. We're always looking for opportunities to give back. We donate to various charities, sponsor sports teams, youth sports athletics. My son is a sports athlete, so I kind of know what that's like.
Yeah.
And so we try to give back as much as we can. On the platform of the app, we actually allow you to match based on volunteer care as well, or charity care. So if you're a family that can't afford a private pay CNA, certified nurse's assistant, but there's one on the platform that's willing to give charity care, you can match on that variable. It's one of the variables
That's really good.
that we can match on. Yeah, so it's all about community, and so as strong as the community we are, the strong as individuals we are. So we're always looking for ways to give back. You know, we donate to the police charities and the sheriff's departments and things like that.
Yeah.
So
Don't they need it? You know,
yeah.
it's like so much going on with, you know, with the world right now.
Yes,
It's like
exactly.
supporting them is very important. And so is this something, as far as going back to the app, that will be available outside of, you know, Houston or Texas even at some point? Is your goals to make it, you know, more available to a wider population?
Yeah, with respect to CuraConnector, we want to make it a nationwide platform. We're starting in Houston as the test case, but we are looking forward to expanding to different cities, the Dallas Metroplex, the Austin, San Antonio area, and then other states eventually, Florida, Nevada, Arizona. A lot of areas where there's a lot of a dense senior population that would need this type of platform. But ultimately, we're looking to expand nationwide. We're exploring various funding options to grow even faster. And so, you know, perhaps we can come back on the show and go specifically into that.
Definitely.
Yeah, and bring on the team to do that.
That would be great.
Yes.
That would be great. Is that something that your business partner with the law firm is involved in, or your wife, or who's kind of your
Good question.
partner
Good question.
in that? Yeah.
So my partner in that project is my wife.
Okay.
We didn't have a relationship at the beginning, but it was always business, always business, always business. But you know, there was just a lot of chemistry there over the course of time in developing the app, and I guess we just grew on each other.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, you know, the baby that was our project.
You guys,
The
other CuraConnector connected y'all.
Yeah, CuraConnector actually did connect us. So.
But that's going back to you said something about Match.com.
Yeah. So kind of a cute story. How the concept started was. My wife at the time, and we've been developing this for almost 9 years, it's self-funded, put a lot of time and investment in it. But my wife at the time was working for business development with a home care agency. And I was finalizing a divorce, and we were just talking business. And we met through another home health agency, but talking business. And, you know, I asked her, what problems do you encounter in home care? And her response was, you know, we had to turn away 3 patients because our providers weren't matching with what they wanted. So they would send out a provider that would get rejected, they would send out another, and so on. And so they had to decline 3 clients, which represents a lot of revenue for a home care company. So we get to talking more and more, and I'm, like I said, finalizing my divorce, and she says, you know, you need to go on Match.com to find somebody. I don't know how that came up, but she said it. And I said, no, I don't, you know, if the universe or God is going to put somebody in front of me,
you said if I have too much game for that.
Well, I did say I have too much game for that, but I don't want to, you know.
That's how we all feel, though. We're I don't need those things.
Yeah, no, my initial response was, no, I got too much game for that. And ultimately, if the universe wants me to have somebody, that person will be in front of me, which happened to be my wife at the time, ultimately. But then it just clicked for both of us. Hey, there's an app that can match people that want to date, but there's no app that can match people that need a personal care provider. Like, why doesn't this exist? And so that launched, that hatched the concept of CuraConnector.com. And so we've been working on this for a long time, evolving the system, working on all the variables. And so we launched it. We made it public actually last year. On my mom's birthday in October. So it's kind of symbolic, kind of a tribute to my mom.
For sure. So this is just like 4 or 5 months, you know, new. It's as far as the launch of it.
Right. right, and filed the patent app, and so we're ready to really push forward with it.
I'll have to definitely take a look and also have another episode on it as it's continuing to grow.
Would love to.
And so you do have children, you mentioned?
Yes, I have a 15-year-old son who plays on a national level AAU basketball circuit. Yeah, so he's a hooper.
That's fun.
He's taller than me, so you're kind of wondering how does that happen? And then
point guard. No,
point guard, exactly. Point guard.
No,
he's been working on it.
Then he can jump, and then you're like, not a point guard. He's actually like right there in the action.
He's a point guard. He's a thinking
guy.
Yeah, he is a point guard. Yeah.
Okay.
5'11", 15 years old. But he's been playing since the 3rd grade.
Okay.
And then a 4-year-old daughter with
How sweet.
Candace. So it's a spread, but it helps out. And
yeah, you're like, he can watch her.
Yeah,
Mom and
exactly. I told him, I said, hey, when you're 32, all your sister's friends will be 22. So it's kind of like a good situation. So be kind to your sister. Yeah, there's a good part of it.
Be kind.
Yeah, be kind to your sister. But no, so to that regard though, we have launched another app. Like I said earlier in the segment 1, I'm very entrepreneurial. I get that from my parents.
Yeah.
Which is called High Life Reels, HIGHLIFEREELZ. But if you can imagine a LinkedIn platform for youth athletics.
Oh, neat.
So as my son Nathan, he can set up his own profile like LinkedIn. So you enter your GPA, your school, your stats, like how much you bench press or sprint the 100-yard dash, squat, deadlift, you can do all that, and then also upload your highlights. And
That's
so,
cool.
And that solution came about because, I'm posting his highlights on my Facebook feed or Instagram, but you've got to scroll through all my other baloney
to find
his, versus a very dedicated.
It sounds like an agent, like a sports agent's dream to find this.
That's the idea, because the recruitment process is ultra competitive, college and all that. But even if you're a semi-professional or almost professional, you could create your profile and send the profile to scouts and recruiters across the world. And so we just launched this. It's kind of like a Dropbox, so it's free. You get a certain amount of memory for free to upload. And if you need more space, you can pay, $2 a month or something like that for more memory. So it's called High Life Reels. It just launched, also simultaneously with CuraConnector.
Yeah, while this show's going, I'll have to make sure the editing, they with these different websites.
Absolutely.
That is really neat as well. I grew up an athlete, so I'm just thinking about the value behind that.
So you can build social networks around this and comment and invite coaches to like your profile and so on.
Yeah, it's like all of a sudden like a kid goes viral on it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like similar to other things.
Exactly. Which is very important because a lot of it with the NIL, name, image, and likeness. So even high school athletes can get paid for their name, image, and likeness. So if you've added that branding, social media element, in some instances, there are college athletes making more money than their coaches through NIL deals. Yeah.
So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is a wonderful show, wonderful time.
Thank you, and I will definitely welcome you back in the near future. So.
We'd love to. We'd love to. Thank you very much.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Hatching for Health. We will see you right back here next Saturday.